like it's trying to keep the memory of you, to figure out who you are, but then it loses it and has to start over. My body tries to recreate you much more than my mind.
So we are here today with Cristina Zar, who directed Your Loving Mother, that'll be showing at the Coconut Grove Film Festival. Cristina, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm okay, and Happy New Year, by the way.
Yes, Happy New Year to you as well. I thought your film was so filled with emotion. It follows truly that doubt that potentially many women who are deciding if they want to be mothers are considering. And the script that you wrote for your actress is just beautiful. And I know you wrote the story. So I was curious, how did this story come about?
Yeah, I needed to write something short for a separate competition, which happens, I mean, it's originally here from London, but it's worldwide, and it's called Straight A. Um, so I needed like a very short concept for a Super 8 film. Um, And I don't know, I had this idea running through my mind, and it had been there for a while about doing something about motherhood, but kind of like wrestling with motherhood, not like I'm sure I want to have kids, more like doubting in that gray area. So I thought maybe I can start exploring this idea by instead of like a 3 minute short, like very, very brief kind of piece. So that's how it came about. It was kind of both the competition with a deadline, which is usually what pushes you to do things, and also just kind of like this concept that I had in my mind. Also because personally I think about it, and yeah, it's difficult to come to terms with it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned there was a little bit of a personal connection with that idea of wrestling with motherhood. Is that something you had considered doing a film about, or was it just something you were thinking about that you wanted to kind of work through those emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a creative, is I mean, you have to kind of like put yourself a little bit through, I don't know, like whatever you're writing, like really reflecting something particular to you, and then other people maybe kind of, I don't know, reflect on it in their own way. But I do think like I'm interested in writing things that I'm thinking about in the moment. Um, and that's sort of a way to, yeah, just kind of like, I don't know, process them. But also it's interesting how they kind of like stay fixed in the short for years, and then you come back to them and you see how much you've changed, or like, or just kind of like stayed in that mindset. And it's very interesting to kind of like come back, I don't know, process again once you see it, which I don't
Mm.
like to do a lot, like watching shorts again and again, the ones that I've done. But it's very interesting, both creatively, like the decisions you make, but also like if you kind of put intimate thoughts on them, like how much you've changed, maybe.
Absolutely. That's so great that you can actually look back and kind of see where you were at a different period of time through your work. You mentioned that it was part of a competition. What was the timeline for that?
Yeah, so Straight It has different deadlines. And I've done it 2 years, and I always do the last one just because I'm procrastinator. And it's very interesting, this competition. I think, yeah, everyone worldwide can apply. And it's quite difficult. I mean, it's difficult to make, but at the same time, it kind of like allows you some freedom. I can explain a little bit how it
Yeah.
works, which is like you put like a roll of Super 8, a cartridge in a Super 8 camera, and then you have to shoot continuously. So, and you only have one take per each shot. So you kind of like,
Okay.
you have to like record a code that is kind of like has your information. Um, and then you have to start kind of like with the first shot and kind of like noting down the seconds that you've recorded, just because you can run out of film, for example. Um, and also you have to do the post-production with the sound without seeing the video, because you've submitted to the laboratory and then it stays with them. So you need to do the sound kind of like blindly. So it's like a very particular way of doing things with film. but it's also like really kind of like freeing in a way, because it's like if it goes wrong, it will be like the normal thing that it goes wrong. You know what I mean? It's kind of like so difficult to get it right that way. You kind of like have to know perfectly what shows you want to do, how much time for each shot. You only have one take. So I don't know if I explain it correctly, but it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're interested, I would say to other filmmakers in like, I don't know, starting to explore film and for it being a fun project, like maybe check out Straight Aid. Not that I'm like in the marketing team of this company, I just find it interesting.
No, that is very interesting that you only have one take per scene, and then you're working very blindly with the audio and how your script is going to be received with the film. What did you learn most from working on that sort of project, not being able to do the audio with the video and having to be very particular with your shots that you're hoping to take to future projects?
I mean, I guess the importance of post production and editing, because you really see it and there's like so much wrong with it. But there's also like interesting finds. But the two times that I made it, it's been kind of like a struggle to see it and be like, there's so many things that are kind of like not like in sync and not how you were picturing it. And but at the same time, I don't know, the process of like really, I don't know, boiling it down to what you need in this kind of like particular time that you have in the coverage, and also really planning ahead. It's something that I like to do. So it's kind of like, I don't know, nailing down on that. Um, so yeah, it's just like be sure your pre-production, and then kind of like also the importance of post-production comes alive. And I mean, the show that I submitted to you guys is not like the exact straight eight, because I did edit it. I always prefer to edit a little bit. I remove things basically because I don't have more coverage that way. Like I don't have other shots. This is only like one cartridge. So I removed a few things. It's not like an extensive edit, but there's always something you can tweak, I feel, to make it better.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this was your second time doing the competition. What was the story that you told the year before or the submission before that?
This was my first one. Then
Oh, this was
I
your
did
first one. My
another one.
apologies.
No, no worries. I did a second one, and it's about, well, I live in London, but I'm originally from Madrid. And I always felt like some sort of like I want connection with this city that I'm foreign for. But the city felt disconnected towards me. I felt like so I made a short film about that, and kind of like that rest, that kind of like, I don't know, trying to make the city fall in love with you almost and be like accept me. So it's about that again, kind of like a personal thing, but translated into like fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so beautiful that were able to have two stories that you could really connect with and have such a passion when working on. Are you looking to work on any projects in the future that also have one of those deep personal connections?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's more and more what I do. Like I used to have more stories that were very like, I don't know, unattached to me, or other people wrote and then sent it to me even. But now it's like it's just easier to me, whatever I'm thinking in the moment, just to write something about that. Because it kind of like helps me, I don't know, figure it out in some other ways and not just kind of like practical life. But yes, I really love it. Yeah, it's what I love to do.
That's awesome. And I know that you had, this connection of how you're feeling with how the character is feeling with grappling the idea of motherhood in the film. What are you hoping that the audience takes away from this film?
Um, I don't know if it's generational, but I feel like I talk a lot about it with my friends, kind of like this thing of like motherhood and how much of a gray area it is. And I think it's also, there's been a cultural change, again, generational, but there's also kind of like so difficult right now, socioeconomically, to really think
Hmm.
kind of like really to have kids. And I haven't seen that so much in film. I recently started to see like two like yeah great films about it. Um, but I think it's starting to like show basically. But I can't. I guess I wanted to be part of it just because it was like very clear in my mind, and I was kind of fascinated by women my age that were like, yeah, I want to have kids. And I was like, how, when? So I don't know. I thought I was, yeah, I'm interested, still interested on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I want to go back to your director's statement that you submitted when you submitted your film. You mentioned the film aims to not have the audience kind of draw any definitive conclusions, but be introspective. And I know you were grappling with some of those feelings and emotions yourself, but can you touch a bit more on how you want the audience to be more introspective?
Yeah, I mean, I could say like that line I could put in like every short that I make, just as in I don't try to make kind of like this is the right way to think or this is what I think. Like neither of them. It's kind of like always an open question. And like whatever you feel like about motherhood, like, it's fine. It's just that I kind of wanted to reflect that gray area precisely and not come out of it with any certainties. And I guess just like watch the short and then, I don't know, kind of like ask yourself similar questions to what she's actually like saying in the voiceover. But I'm guessing most women anyway have probably done that. It's kind of like, I guess just I want them, if they're in that in between area, to feel seen a little bit, hopefully. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think you did such a wonderful job with that. I want to thank you so much for your time today. And we are so honored to be playing your short film at the festival this year.
Thank you. I've seen some of the interviews you've done and also like some clips of the shorts and I'm like, oh my God, I want to see it. Like everything is like it seems so cool and the interviews seem so well documented, like they are well documented and stuff and it's like, wow, impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And it was so nice speaking with you.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.